Hello and welcome to Kitco Mining with me, Paul Harris, here in Dawson City in Yukon, Canada. This afternoon we're talking about logistics, freight and other things. And I have great pleasure to be joined by Wendy Tayler, President and CEO of Alkan. Good afternoon, Wendy.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. Maybe let's start off with an easy question for you. Who is Alkan and what do you do?
Yeah, so Alkan is an aviation company based in the Yukon. We were founded back in 1977, so we're just over 45 years old. And we serve air ambulance in the Yukon and a little bit in BC as well, and the exploration and mining industry. And I always tell people we were founded in 1977 with 3 airplanes, exclusively serving the exploration and mining industry. That's really where we started from.
You're pretty much the logistics backbone for a lot of the mining and exploration operators here with your fleet, both not just personnel but obviously shipping supplies around and the various sort of regional or remote airfields.
Absolutely. I mean, we recognize, I think everybody knows that the exploration and mining industry is the largest economic impact in the territory, and it simply wouldn't be able to exist if it wasn't for the supply sector, right? So aviation is a critical piece for any exploration company in the Yukon, and we provide services whether it be to move people or freight or fuel. Some locations, of course, have roads, in which case we're moving their people, and other locations they need us to move all of their freight.
Does the mining and exploration sector, does that provide a sort of very much, let's say, a base load of traffic which sustains air operations which support general communities?
Yeah, I would say that if it wasn't for the exploration and mining industry, many of us that choose to live in the Yukon wouldn't be here, right? And so when you look at the backbone of any supply business in the territory, it is this industry. So, whether it be the Fireweed Zinc or Snowline, these various projects that we're dealing with right now, if they weren't here today, we wouldn't be here and able to provide services, as you say, to the communities and elsewhere in the territory.
Given your relatively unique position, you must have a very good insight into how the sector has evolved over the years, how it's evolved, the type of companies, and where they're operating. What are the sort of trends or what have you that you've been able to sort of see and pick up?
So we've been involved with Invest Yukon since inception, really. And as you say, every year it's a little bit different what part of the territory is busiest. Certainly the critical minerals have really changed the picture in Yukon in the last probably year. We've got some significant projects there. I would say that there's not an individual that lives in Yukon that isn't working for government that doesn't recognize that having a healthy exploration and mining sector in Yukon is key for us to live in the north. Yeah. Okay,
and in terms of the let's say the volume of traffic, is that continuing to grow? As you know, Yukon, we've had big exploration discovery in the last couple of years with Snowline. Obviously, had a big mine developed with Victoria Gold. Is that increased the level of attraction? More companies coming in, more work happening?
Absolutely. I would say the last probably 5 years we've seen a fairly significant increase in traffic. The last 2 in particular, as you say, with Snowline and Fireweed Zinc as fairly major exploration projects, and then with Victoria Gold coming online. We're seeing a fairly significant increase in a need for aviation, but not just for aviation. I would say the supply sector as a whole. We're all a lot busier than we were 4 or 5 years ago, but we also really recognize that in order for exploration projects, there's quite a few projects in Yukon right now that I would say late stage exploration, but in order for them to become mines, we need investors and media to come to the Yukon, see the projects, and also see that we have a strong supply sector to support them. And so that's really what we're interested as Alkan. And when you look at Invest Yukon, why are we here? Why do we support the Invest Yukon property tours? We realize that we need investors and we need media to get out to the sites, talk to the CEOs, and also to see that we have a really strong supply sector that can support industry as those projects develop.
Excellent. The government people this morning at the start of the conference were talking about how Yukon is the fastest growing province or territory in Canada and how its population is growing quite a lot. I imagine part of that is because of the mining exploration sector, but also people being attracted to live here because of the infrastructure and the ever improving infrastructure.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I would say that the reason it's growing is the exploration and mining industry. but the Yukon is an incredible place to live. Maybe don't tell anybody that, maybe we shouldn't put that in the interview, but people fall in love with the territory. And when you look at Alkan, we have 100 employees, we have 100 families, and they choose to live in the north. They don't live here for a job, they live here and therefore work here. So you're absolutely right, there's a real desire to live in the north. But without a strong exploration and mining industry, those people wouldn't get to choose to live here.
I think this is my fifth or maybe sixth trip up here to Yukon, and we've been traveling around on your planes for a number of years, so thank you for that. And you do get access pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, it's important for us to be here. The reason you've seen us for 4 or 5 years is because we recognize if we don't get the media out to the properties to talk to the CEOs, then we're not going to see those projects progress the way they need to in order to sustain our territory, right?
Excellent. It's definitely a wonderful and continuing to grow and emerging story, and it's great to be sort of involved with Alkan Air and to be able to sort of share with you and talk with you some of those advances. Wendy Tayler, President and CEO, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to Kitco Mining for more from the Yukon Mining Investment Conference.